You know, what's happening right now is there's some birds. There's some birds that are going rounds in circles up there. They're trying to find the place where the air is going up. You can see them up there. And so we have a bird that's going to speak to us today that does that quite often. Pastor Mike Hagaski is going to come and share a word with us. We're going to soar. We're going to soar today. Hallelujah. Not soar, S-O-R-E.
Well, I do have a soaring illustration to give you, and that comes a little later. And
There it is. Looks like the birdies.
oh, that just gives me a thrill looking at that. Those are the Sierras back there. It's identical to my airplane. I'm in this group. There's a group of us, and I'm ahead of them a little bit. That's those cloud bases, and he's at about cloud base. Those cloud bases are at 18,000 feet. Pardon me? Did you take your hands off the wheel to take the picture? I didn't take that picture. I'm ahead. A guy named Dirk took that picture. And yeah, you can fly without your hands on the stick. You can you trim it, and you don't, not for a long, long time, but yeah, thrill. It's a thrill. Okay, so we're talking about being an individual, how to be an individual. And it occurred to me, this cliche, this line that you often hear, get a life, get a life. Probably one of the best admonishment. Probably one of the best admonishments you will ever hear. Get a life. It's good advice. It's good advice. And when somebody says that to you, you probably reply either directly or more likely in your mind, what's this guy mean? I have a life. And I'm here to tell you, sometimes, no, you don't. No, you don't. Sometimes it's said in reference to maybe someone who is trying to be someone they're not, trying to be someone else. Somebody who might really admire someone. They try to be like them, and they forget to be themselves. This is a time you need to get a life, get your own life. Then maybe one of the other references to getting a life is when someone is like a couch potato, someone who just doesn't do a whole lot with their life. I think couch potato is one of the better, more descriptive couple of words that I can think of. It really brings to mind a picture. Couch potatoes don't really have a life. And then we spoke a few days ago, I think, about butterflies. And it came to mind that a butterfly covers a lot of ground. And probably in its first flight, it covers more ground than it ever did when it was a caterpillar. it hits the ground running, so to speak, when it becomes a caterpillar, running or flying. It's born again. It got a life. Caterpillar got a life. A life, a good life, covers a lot of ground. Jesus covered a lot of ground. He covered a lot of ground in a small area and in a short time. Jesus was, you could say, born again. He came down from heaven and was born of Mary. And he got a life. He had a life. All things, as the Bible say, all things become new. And I say, when you get a life. When you get a life. Our theme is one guide for life. And I think the meaning of life is to get a life. It's something you can almost remember, maybe. The meaning of life is to get a life. And the life you want is the one that God gave you or has for you. Find it. Find your life. Your life, not someone else's. Your life. Find your life. To find your life, you need to, one of the ways to find your life is you need to look at your history. Your history is your life. This is your life. You were once a caterpillar. Are you still a caterpillar? Getting fat, munching on the leaves? Know your history. Get a history, get a life. No history, no life. Know your history. No one's history is the same as yours. This makes you that individual that we're talking about. It's like the thumbprint that Pastor Rob talked about. And I would further say that you can find your history in the Bible. There's a lot of history in the Bible. That's what the Bible is. It's history, his story, history. You can find your life in the Bible. Get a life, get a Bible. You want a life? Read the Bible. It's full of life. It's full of individuals. Individuals. Full of individuals. We have a history of listening and a history of doing. Who you are and who you were. Remember these things. History is something to be remembered. The Bible says so. God says, remember. He says it often enough that we should pay attention to that and that we should remember. Remember who you are and remember who you were. So the meaning of life is to get a life. The point of life, I think, one of the points of life is to cover a lot of ground. Like I mentioned, Jesus covered a lot of ground. Again, that's something of a cliche, something that we, it's symbolic. It means a lot of things. What does it mean to you as an individual? What does covering a lot of ground mean to you as an individual? What are you supposed to be doing? What ground are you supposed to be covering? Who are you? Who are you going to be? Are you going to sit on the couch? Not covering a whole lot of ground on the couch. You want to cover some ground? Ooh-wee. Where was I? No one, okay, the point of life is to cover a lot of ground like Jesus did. The point of life is to cover a lot of ground, and no one can cover ground the same way you do as an individual. Nobody can do what you can do. You're unique. You're an individual. You are God's creation. You are wonderfully, carefully created for specific things. Words. Words have meaning to you that no one else has. No one else. Things can be spoken, things can be read, and it especially comes to mind in the Bible, where those words mean something totally different to me than they mean to you, because I am an individual. Those are my words, and you can't have them. My words. God gave them to me as an individual. Sometimes it's called a revelation. Get your own revelation as an individual. God gives you revelation as an individual. Get a revelation, get a life. Get a revelation, get a life. Get a revelation, and you get a life. Hallelujah. The old, I'll tell you, when I get a revelation, the old becomes new. Revelations often come from things maybe you've read in the Bible over and over again, and all of a sudden, man, that thing becomes new. In Ecclesiastes, we have a pretty good example of, well, let me just say, Solomon says, there is nothing new under the sun. And I say, until you get a revelation. Proverbs in the New King James Version says, the people perish without a revelation. Might I just say that where there is no revelation, there is no life. No life. Revelation is the bread of life. It's things revealed. It's a fresh loaf of bread. Solomon, I believe, in this time that he was writing Ecclesiastes, was living on stale bread. There's nothing new under the sun. We need a fresh loaf. The study guide that we had has the inward man is renewed every day. This is the fresh loaf. You want the inward man to live, to have a life, needs a fresh loaf every day. And I believe that Jesus is the only one that can give you that. I think this is maybe one of the definitions or a definition of an individual. An individual gets a fresh loaf every day. Fresh revelation. Okay, so for my soaring illustration, Soaring is like life. Soaring can be like life. There are kind of couch potato pilots who will go up. They'll take the risk and go up, but they'll stay around the airport. They won't leave home. They won't take any risks, and they'll do it as long as it's really safe. And soaring is safe. Trust me, it's safe. Especially in that context. Where am I? So, yeah, some never leave the area. Some rarely leave the ground. Some just like to study it. Understand the physics of it. Understand the science of it. Just understand it. Me, I don't want to understand it. I want to do it. And some go cross country. They risk, and they risk it all to cover a lot of ground. That, my friend, gives me chills. That, we took off at Lone Pine, released at about 9,000 feet. We had to get that high to get the lift that was coming off the Sierra Nevadas. Lone Pine is right at the base of Mount Whitney. And when I released, I got a nice thermal. I probably climbed to 15,000, 16,000 feet. And I flew over to Mount Whitney. I was south of Mount Whitney at the time of release and the thermal that I got. The lift wasn't working over Mount Whitney, so I continued to descend after my initial climb. And I radioed to the guys. I said, hey, this isn't happening. Let's cross the valley over to the Inyos. That's the mountain range across the valley from Mount Whitney. And there were some nice clouds over there. They looked very similar to that. And I made it over there first, and I climbed, and I started to head north. And the guys were behind me. And I headed north, and I climbed, and I climbed, and I climbed. By the time I got to White Mountain, which is about just call it 100 miles from Lone Pine, I was at 18,000 feet. I could see Lake Crowley all the way across the valley. And I was praising God. I was beside myself, thanking Jesus that He gave me the ability and the opportunity to be in that glider and to experience, not on the couch, but in the seat of a glider, God's unbelievable creation. That glider takes one individual. Man, that individual, again, I can't tell you, I was beside myself, praising God and thanking Him for the miracle. I understand it. I know what makes it all happen, but to me, it's still a miracle of how I can do that for 200 miles. It was a 200-mile flight, there and back. Landed back in Lone Pine. Glider pilots, saved or not saved, and there's some individuals in soaring. You got to find the lift. You got to find the lift. You want to cover ground? You got to find the lift. You as an individual, you take that and run with it. what that means to you in your life. I found the lift, man. I found the lift, and I got to 18,000 feet. I could see Lake Crowley at my turn point. There was White Mountain below me at 250 feet lower than Mount Whitney. Mount Whitney is about 14,500. This is about 14,250. It was below me. It was below me. Find the lift in your life. I can't tell you. It's the perfect illustration for me. You discern, you decide what the lift is. Lift is reading the Bible and getting a revelation. Lift is coming to church and hearing the preacher preach. Lift is relationship. One of the greatest sources of lift is relationship. Martin, Caitlin, you guys feeling the lift? You got a relationship going on there? They'd be feeling the lift. You're going up. 18,000 feet. Find the lift and you find a life. Find the lift and you find a life. Talk real quick about the mystery in life. The mystery of the thing is your life, your mystery. There's a mystery in the mystery that you have. There's things that mystify us. You can start with God, put him at the top of the list. But there's mysteries in life. Mysteries in life are compelling. Mysteries in life need solving. Mysteries in life get you going. Mysteries in life get you off the couch. Soaring is still a mystery in my life. God is even a bigger mystery in my life. If it ceases to be a mystery, you've lost it. You've lost something. We don't really want to solve God. I don't really want to solve soaring. I don't want to really solve the relationship between my wife and I. It's cool that there's a mystery. Mysteries keep you going. Mysteries keep you coming back. What's your mystery as an individual? Keep trying to solve it, but don't expect to solve it. It's the same thing as be perfect. But you'll never be perfect. You don't want the same mystery as everyone else has. If you have the same mystery as everyone else, you have no life. If you have no mystery in your life, you have no life. You lose your individuality. In the handout we had this word increase. The inward man is renewed day by day, and it is this inward man which we must cultivate and let God give the increase of heart, mind, and soul. Increase. Good word. That hit me between the eyes. Gave me some lift. You have life when there is increase. Increase and outflow. If you don't have increase, I think you're sitting on the couch. If you don't have any outflow, I think you're sitting on the couch. Your outflow is like no other. As an individual, what you have to give is like no other. If you have outflow, if you have increase, and use that increase as an outflow, you are a life giver. Think about Jesus. Man, that guy's always got outflow. I come here at 6 a.m., or what used to be 6 a.m. I come here in the morning, 7 a.m. Sometimes I've been coming at 6. But, man, you just sit here in the church and just shut the lips down, open up the mind, and you'll get some increase in outflow from Jesus. The guy just won't shut up. He just won't shut up. And there is no other person like Jesus, and no other person can be like Jesus. We can try, and we should try, but we'll never be like Jesus. He's an individual. Because of your you are a life giver because of your individuality, your revelations, and your relationship. How many potatoes have gotten a revelation? You know any potatoes that got a revelation? Maybe they did, but if they did, it got them off the couch. One thing I want to address to finish up is that in this day and age, we've got a real problem, and that is the victim. If it weren't for the victim, we wouldn't have a certain political party, I believe. They're based on and that's their resource. I don't think they would exist without the victim. Many people will assume that victimhood mentality because they are told they are victims. Let me tell you right now, a victim has no life. We're all victims. I'm a victim, Pastor Rob's a victim. We're all victims. But it's whether or not you take on the victimhood mentality that decides whether you, in the end, are a real victim or you're an individual. If you don't take on the victimhood mentality, I believe you're an individual. You've become God's intended, you are ready to enter God's intended purpose for your life. Victims are at the mercy of those who tell them that they're victims and tell them that they need help and tell them that they'll never be anything but a victim. And they are, in fact, telling them that they will never have a life. I believe that that's one of the messages we need to get out as a church. You are not a victim. You are created wonderfully and carefully and specifically by God for a specific purpose. God has a plan for your life. God has a plan for your life as an individual. An individual is not a victim and does not have the victimhood mentality. He has the mentality that God created him for a purpose. I'm done. Go soaring.